Which head coach would you want, Curt Cignetti or Marcus Freeman? This speaks to just what has happened. We live in a world now, in a college football world, Caroline, where Indiana is one of the key spots in the. Who would have thought? Who would have ever thought 5 years ago we'd be talking about these two guys, Indiana particularly, being the teams to run it? So I'll ask you, you got to pick one. Would you rather have Marcus Freeman or Curt Cignetti?
I'd rather have Curt Cignetti. And I think it's pretty simple. It comes down to who has won a national championship and who hasn't. Well, Curt Cignetti has won a national championship. Marcus Freeman has gotten to one, close but no cigar. And I think the ultimate dividing factor there is that Curt Cignetti has done more with less in a less amount of time. Notre Dame football has every single resource at their disposal. And it really does probably feel like a massive failure that Notre Dame hasn't won a national championship in how many years? I mean, how long has it been since they've been there? They just haven't won one. Then with the resources, with the talent that they attract, that feels like a massive, massive disappointment. Curt Cignetti in year 2 at Indiana, the losingest Power 4 program in the history of college football before he got there. A place that had, if they beat Marshall every once in a while, it was like, woohoo! A place where students didn't even think about going to the college football games. And he won a national championship with the old quarterback from Cal, with a bunch of transfers from JMU. So it's Curt Cignetti, and I love Marcus Freeman. I have a lot of respect for Marcus Freeman. And Marcus Freeman did beat Curt Cignetti head to head. I think we should point that out. Marcus Freeman beat Curt Cignetti in the college football playoff in 2024. But Marcus Freeman has done something that Curt Cignetti has never done. That's lose to Northern Illinois. That's lose to Marshall. That's lose to teams that he really has no business losing to. When Curt Cignetti has only ever lost to Ohio State and Notre Dame.
When you think about the conversation around Cignetti, I think where Indiana came from is such a huge part of this. Because what we say about Marcus Freeman is, he's finally brought Notre Dame back to the promised land that they deserve to be part of. Just a reminder, the 5 seasons leading up to Marcus Freeman taking over full-time, that Notre Dame team went 10-3, 12-1, 11-2, 10-2, 11-2. That's what Marcus Freeman took over. He did not take over Indiana. He took over a team that was always on the precipice of, but just couldn't quite get over the hump. To be clear, I'd rather go spend the weekend on a yacht with Marcus Freeman. I'd rather go to the club with Marcus Freeman. I'd probably rather go hang out in the bar with Marcus Freeman than Curt Cignetti. But if I'm picking which one I want to be my head football coach, it's not even close. What Curt Cignetti has done for Indiana is unprecedented. And we normalize greatness so much that right now we're just forgetting how bad it was. And the fact that Indiana went undefeated and won a national championship, the fact that he propelled Indiana to that season, he got the quarterback that is now my favorite team's quarterback is there as the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, in large part because he was just around Curt Cignetti. Like, that ability to jump, not for a coach that's 30, not for a coach that nobody saw coming, not for a coach that the world couldn't have known about. No, for a coach that's been around for a minute, that the world had the chance to pick, that every team could have hired year in and year out and didn't. I think that speaks to Curt Cignetti's greatness, which is why, by the way, Caroline, I'll just say, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, if it's Curt Cignetti or Marcus Freeman, it's Curt Cignetti. But if you're asking me Curt Cignetti or the field, I'm taking the fields. And I think it's because we've seen coaches catch lightning in a bottle before. I think that Curt Cignetti and Indiana are more than just lightning in a bottle. But I saw it at my own alma mater. Again, a place with far more resources and far more in-state talent than Indiana has, than my alma mater, LSU. I saw them catch lightning in a bottle and win a national championship and show us one of the greatest seasons in the history of the sport. That coach was fired a year and a half later. I think Curt Cignetti is a better football coach and is a better X's and O's guy than Ed Orgeron is. I will state that for the record. But we've seen Kirby Smart win back-to-back. That we've seen coaches win one, and then get back again, and then get back again and maintain themselves in the conversation. Curt Cignetti is in an uphill battle in the state of Indiana. Not only are you competing with other in-state schools like a Notre Dame, but you're also competing against the Ohio States and the Michigans of the world. And oh yeah, by the way, you're competing against the Texases and the Floridas and the Louisianas of the world where 5 stars grow on trees. So while I do think that Curt Cignetti is one of the best coaches in college football, while Curt Cignetti is one of the highest paid coaches in college football, and rightfully so, if you give me Curt Cignetti or Kirby Smart, I'm probably taking Kirby because Kirby's been around and has stuck around in the conversation and has won back-to-back national championships. It's great that Curt Cignetti has won one, and it's great that Curt Cignetti has Indiana where they are. And it's fun when there's parity in the sport. In order for me to take you over some of these other guys, I need to see you do it again.
That's fair. I think the reason that I'm all in on Curt Cignetti, and frankly, the reason I'm in on Indiana becoming dynastic right now, is because right place, right time for all of it. Everything changed in college football, as you and I know, covered it so much, right? Like the way that the players are funded, the way that this alumni base decided to start spending money, all of these things came together for a coach that isn't a spring chicken, for a coach that isn't 45 years old and turning around talking. He's not 30 years old talking to college kids. He's old enough to be these kids' dads, and in some cases, almost their granddad, right? But he comes in with a massive amount of money and an engaged alumni base that is ready to spend that money. And he seems to have an eye for finding the right talent and getting that talent coached up incredibly quickly. I don't know that it's just Curt Cignetti, but if I look at Indiana football as Voltron, if I look at all of these different pieces together and say, okay, well, in the modern climate, do you have a great coach? Yes. Do you have a coach that can find transfer talent portal? Yes. Do you have a coach that has an understanding to the way modern college football teams are built? Yes. Do you have a program that's willing to fund whatever it takes to do it? Yes. Do you have a pipeline to the NFL now? Yes. When I stack all of those things together, Indiana, they've become a pipeline now. And once you've got the number 1 overall pick and you've got wide receivers that are going to play,
a pipeline is maybe did they have a great team with a ton of talent that will be successful in the NFL? Yes. But I mean, all the things, all the boxes that Indiana's checking, and I don't disagree with it. But you know who else checks those boxes? Michigan. You know who else checks those boxes? Ohio State, Texas, USC, Notre Dame, Florida, Georgia, Alabama. Am I missing anybody? So I can't say that Indiana has a pipeline to the NFL. I can say that Indiana has now at least examples to show you that we can get you to the NFL. But I mean, we're talking about NFL pipelines. You're competing against some of the greatest NFL pipelines that exist in the sport.
I think they've created a new and very, this is like a modern pipeline. They've just gone out and built it. You're right. Every school you just mentioned has a generational pipeline. Of course they can get it to. I think Indiana's got a method that's really easy to see. You step back, they want players that have played a ton of college football, that have been around and seen a ton. This is the equivalent in the NFL of building only with free agency, which you're allowed to do in the modern college football landscape. So they're going out with guys. They're not having to coach guys up from high school. They're coaching guys up that have already played a ton of college football, many of which that are at grad level, so they don't have to take a ton of classes. They're putting them around a coaching staff that knows how to maximize their ability with a level of attention that gets them to the NFL. This all stacks together to what, starts as the number 1 overall pick, a couple of wide receivers, a defensive back, some guys that get drafted this year throughout the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round. But then you see it sustain. Again, as we talked about, they get one of the top recruits coming in, or one of the top transfers, I should say, coming in at the quarterback position that is going to be in this same. If Hoover comes out and has a Fernando-like year, he could end up getting drafted ahead of all of them. I think they've created a very current modern system that is a straight pipeline to, hey, we're not going to develop a high school kid. We're going to get somebody that's 24 years old. We're going to teach them the little nuances they need that's going to get them to win us a bunch of football games, and it's going to put them in the NFL. That's an absolute pipeline to me. So while I agree with you that Michigan and Ohio State and Georgia, I mean, these are all schools that get kids drafted week in and year in and year out. So does Indiana now in the modern system, the way that they built it.
You just said a key word that I think is the biggest difference between how I feel and how you feel about Indiana. Sustain. I want to see you sustain that, because sustaining success and staying at the top of college football has never been harder than it is right now. Nick Saban cracked the sustainability code that doesn't exist anymore. No longer are you recruiting 5 stars out of high school and allowing them to sit the bench for 3.5 years. They get 1 year, they pop off their first round draft picks, and you just reload every single year. I agree with you that there is this modern formula to winning championships, and that is dominating the transfer portal and finding these 23, 24-year-olds that have 4 or 5 years of college football experience. But you have to replenish that every single year. And not every single year is the crop of talent in the transfer portal going to be as robust as maybe the year previous. Or not every year are you going to find a 24-year-old player with 5 years of college football experience that fits into your system or that buys into your locker room culture. There is a clear model that we have seen that works. We saw it from Ohio State. We saw it from Notre Dame the year that they got to the national championship. We saw it from Indiana. We saw it from Miami, who was in the national championship. We've seen it with Ole Miss. Like, we have seen plenty of examples of success from that model. But sustainability is my question. Can you do it year over year over year over year and build that reliable pipeline, as reliable as we've seen from some other programs, some of the legacy programs in college football? It doesn't matter as much as it used to now that we're living in the NIL era, but we would be naive to think that it doesn't matter at all.
I don't disagree with you, but they went from 11-2 to 16-0 and a national champion. According to On3, the number one transfer portal class of the entire offseason belongs to Indiana. According to ESPN, the number one offseason in the Big Ten belongs to Indiana. They've kept their entire coaching staff intact. So I hear you that you want continuity, but all we have is what we have in front of us. They grew from year 1 to 2 under Cignetti, and they replaced the outgoing class with the top-ranked transfer portal class. That's as close to continuity, I think, as you can get in modern college football. Yeah, we have to see it on the field. But if you're asking, have they stacked all of the Legos together into a block that makes it look like they are back? Yeah, like until they disappoint, I'm not going to presume they're going to disappoint just because other teams can't match the level of continuity. They've done everything to this point that I think they can do. So I agree with you.
Until they do it again, I can't crown them a dynasty. Like, what they do on the field matters to me. Do they look like they're poised to get right back where they were this past season? Yeah, that's what it looks like. Ole Miss had the number one transfer portal class going into the 2024 season. They went 9-3 and missed out on the college football playoff. So I don't think that's what this is.
Ole Miss wasn't a defending national champion. Like Cignetti's,
But I don't think that matters. I'm saying you can be the number one ranked transfer portal class, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go 16-0 and win the national championship next year. You say until they disappoint. I say until they prove it. I'm not willing to call them a dynasty. I'm willing to call them some new kids on the block. I'm not willing to call them a dynasty.
I look at all of it and say proof of concept and benefit of the doubt has already been earned. To go 11-2 in that first year had all of us say, yeah, but we got to see it again. Like, we're not going to really buy in on Indiana until we see it again. They go 16-0 with a quarterback coming into the season that most people hadn't even heard of, that was not that highly recruited by most people. Shout out to Nate Tice, who saw it coming in advance, but most people did not know Fernando Mendoza was going to be Fernando Mendoza. And now they've replaced all of those pieces with even higher touted pieces on top of the defending national champion.